Good morning all. In today's video, we learn about OSI Reference Model. Before getting into the details of OSI Reference Model, first let us know what is OSI. OSI stands for Open System Interconnection. It is a reference model based on which the communication happens between any two computer systems. OSI, the communication which is happening through OSI reference model, tells us that the computers and the communication are open for all the computers over the network, which was provided by an organization called ISO, which stands for International Standards Organization, which defines the standardization for the protocols. That means all the computers and all the communications which is going through OSI reference model are open for the other computer systems in order to pass the information. So this is what the one standard basic reference model which was defined by ISO standards. This OSI reference model will be communicating where the communication happens through 7 layers. So those 7 layers in OSI reference model are layer 1 physical layer, layer 2 data link layer, layer 3 network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer and application layer, which means the computers or the communication which is following OSI reference model basic rules will be allowing the data to be flowed. Data flow happens through all these 7 layers. Now we'll see in detail how these 7 layers are helpful in order to communicate the information between any two systems. So this is how the actual interaction between layers in the OSI model happens. In the screen which I am showing you, let us suppose there are two systems, two devices. Device A wants to communicate with the device B. So here the communication happens between these two devices. If these two devices are following OSI reference model, now we'll see how the communication is happening between them. If they are following OSI reference model, usually based on ISO standard organization, OSI will be communicating in the form of 7 layers. So those 7 layers we already discussed. So the first and foremost layer, the lowest layer in the OSI model is the physical layer. Now you see here, this is what the physical layer, where the actual physical connection maintenance, activation and deactivation, the actual raw data, unstructured raw data over network will happen through this physical layer. In other words, physical layer is responsible for transmission and reception of the unstructured raw data over network, which is in the form of bits. Now next, coming to the next layer other than the first layer is what? The data link layer. Data link layer synchronizes the information which is to be transmitted over the physical layer. The main function of this layer is to make sure data transfer is error-free from one node to another over the physical layer. Transmitting and receiving data frames sequentially is managed by this layer. Physical layer communication happens in the form of bits, whereas group number of bits together constituting here the sequential frame communication happens. Now the next layer, the third layer, is the network layer, which routes the signal through different channels from one node to other. It acts as a network controller. It decides by which route the data should intake. So it also divides the outgoing messages into packets and assembles the incoming packets into messages for the higher layers. Physical layer, which is responsible for the actual physical connection in the form of, and the communication will be in the form of bits. Data link layer through sequential frames, and also network layer in the form of packets, right? Next comes is the transport layer. Transport layer decides if data transmission should be on parallel path or on single path. Transport layer breaks the messages into small units so that they are handled more effectively by the network layer. Hence, transport layer also uses either TCP/IP for connection oriented purpose and the UDP for connectionless. The actual transmission happens through transport layer. The other layer in the OSI reference model is the session layer. Session layer manages and synchronizes the conversation between two different applications. Transfer of data from source to destination. Session layer streams the data and resynchronizes properly. Hence, the session layer is responsible for synchronizing the conversation between any two devices. Next comes the other layer after the session layer, that is the sixth layer, last but one layer is the presentation layer, which takes care about the data is sent in such a way that the receiver will understand the information, and also the receiver should be in a position, receiver should be able to use that data. While receiving the data, presentation layer transforms the data to be ready for the application layer. So after receiving the receiver, at this end it will transmit the data where the application layer should be in a position to directly use it. It also performs data compression, data conversion, and all those things. So that is what the sixth layer called presentation layer. Now the topmost layer is the application layer. Application layer, transferring of files between any two devices. Here this actual high-end data has been exchanged between two application layers of two systems. Hence the application layer is the topmost layer, where this layer mainly holds application programs upon by receiving or by sending. So he will send an application program, an application, the device will be, the receiver will be receiving that application. So this is how the interaction between layers of 7 layers in the OSI reference model happens. Right? Here this is the one, right? Like the communication from network to physical is what we call a subnetwork. If the subnet is more efficient, then actually the information communication between these two devices, that means who are following OSI reference model, will be more convenient, and also more effectiveness will be there. Hence we will be calling this particular area as a subnetwork and subnet, and this is what the whole network. And these are all the intermediate nodes which are helpful, nothing but intermediate protocols. As we all know what is a protocol, it's an agreement between any two communicating parties. So here these are all the different protocols, like TCP, transport layer uses TCP/IP, session layer uses SCTP, like APDUs, TPDUs, all these are there will be some different protocols which are used by different layers. At each layer is supported by different protocols that we will learn in the further units. But on the whole, as a brief, this is how the interaction between layers in the OSI model happens, right? So the actual physical communication starts from physical layer to data link layer to network layer to transport layer to session layer to presentation layer and application layer. That means if device A wants to communicate with device B, so first of all the information will be in the layer called application, which is transmitted to presentation. Here you observe there are to and from interfaces. That means the information from this layer will be easily transmitted to the below layer, and also the information from the below layer will be easily transferring to the above layer. From application to presentation, session, transport, network, data link, and actual raw data will be available at the physical layer, which is actually through physical communication, through physical link, right? So with the help of this, it will be directly forwarded to device B, physical layer, from there to data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and at the end through application layer, device B will be receiving that information. Is it clear? So this is how the interaction between different layers of OSI model will happen when communication happens between any two systems, right? So on the whole, a quick snapshot of what we discussed till now is these are all the layers of OSI reference model: physical layer, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. And as I told you, each and every layer is supported by unique protocols. We have physical layer protocols, data link layer protocols, and all those things. And these are how name of units data exchange. I already told you, physical layer, the information will be in the form of bits, raw data, I told you, right? the group of bits together constitute a frame, group of frames constitute together a packet, right? So at network layer, packets is what we distribute. Here V means from source to destination and destination to source. And transport layer will be, data will be in the form of TPDUs, which stands for Transport Protocol Data Unit, SPDUs, Session Protocol Data Unit, PPDU, Presentation Protocol Data Unit, APDU. That means these are all the different data units where each layer will understand. So this is how the OSI reference model communication happens. Thank you.